The distress signal came from nowhere and everywhere at once. Captain Sarah Chen was reviewing night watch reports aboard the USS Leviathan when the communication array lit up like a Christmas tree. Every screen on the bridge flashed red as an automated voice began broadcasting in 17 different languages, each message identical and desperate. This is an emergency broadcast. Unknown hostile forces are attacking Earth. All available military vessels, please respond immediately. Coordinates follow. Time is running out. Chen's coffee cup slipped from her fingers, shattering on the deck. In her 23 years of naval service, she'd never heard anything like it. The signal wasn't coming through normal channels, it was broadcasting directly into their quantum communication network, bypassing every security protocol they had. "Ma'am?" Lieutenant Commander Rodriguez turned from his station, his face pale. "We're receiving this on all frequencies. It's impossible." "Nothing's impossible, Rodriguez. Get me Admiral Morrison on the line. Now." But before Rodriguez could respond, the tactical display exploded with new information. Red dots appeared across the globe, not just military vessels, but civilian ships, aircraft, even satellites. Everything with a receiver was picking up the signal. The message repeated, and this time Chen noticed something that made her blood run cold. The coordinates weren't for any location on Earth. They were for a point in space exactly 2.7 million kilometers away, roughly 7 times the distance to the Moon. Captain Ensign Park called from the sensor station, "I'm detecting massive gravitational anomalies at those coordinates. Whatever's out there, it's big." Chen's mind raced. The Leviathan was humanity's most advanced warship, a kilometer-long behemoth equipped with experimental plasma cannons and enough firepower to level a small country. But if the signal was genuine, they might be facing something beyond their comprehension. "All hands, battle stations," she commanded. "Set course for the coordinates. Maximum burn." "Ma'am, that will take us 18 hours at full acceleration." "Then we better get started." Across the globe, similar scenes played out on dozens of warships. The Chinese Dragon's Fury, a massive carrier bristling with advanced fighters. The Russian Vladivostok, its nuclear arsenal still shrouded in secrecy. The British Excalibur, whose energy weapons had been tested in absolute secrecy. Even the European Union's experimental Unity, a ship that existed only in rumors and classified documents. Admiral Rebecca Morrison stood in the Pentagon's Crisis Center, watching as red lines traced across the global map. Every major naval power was responding to the signal, their most advanced vessels suddenly changing course for a point in deep space that shouldn't have anything in it. "Talk to me, General," she said to Air Force General Marcus Webb, who was coordinating with NASA. "It's unprecedented, Admiral. The signal bypassed every encryption we have. It's not just being received, it's being transmitted directly into our equipment. Our best scientists have no idea how." Morrison studied the tactical display. "How many ships are responding?" 47 confirmed, with more joining every hour. The Russians are sending their entire Black Sea fleet. The Chinese have mobilized everything they have in the Pacific. Even the smaller nations are contributing: India, Brazil, Australia. It's like someone rang a dinner bell and every predator in the ocean heard it. And we still don't know what we're responding to." Webb shook his head. "Satellite imagery shows nothing at those coordinates. Deep space telescopes detect massive gravitational distortions, but no visual confirmation of what's causing them." Morrison felt a chill run down her spine. In her 40 years of military service, she'd learned to trust her instincts. And right now, those instincts were screaming that humanity was walking into something it wasn't prepared for. "Admiral," a young technician called out, "we're receiving a new transmission." The main screen flickered, and suddenly they were looking at something that defied explanation. The image was grainy, filled with static, but unmistakably showed a massive structure floating in space. It was clearly artificial, geometric patterns covered its surface, and it was easily the size of a small moon. "My God," Webb whispered. "What is that thing?" The transmission cut out, replaced by the original distress signal. But now there was something else, a countdown timer in the corner of every screen. It showed 23 hours 17 minutes and 42 seconds and was ticking down. 23 hours, Morrison said grimly. Whatever's happening, we have less than a day to get there. Captain Chen had been in space before, but never like this. The Leviathan was one of the few ships equipped with atmospheric flight capability, and the transition from ocean to void had been surprisingly smooth. Around her, the Earth fell away, a blue marble shrinking in the viewscreen. Status report, she called. All systems nominal, Captain. We're making good time. ETA to coordinates is now 14 hours. Chen nodded, but her attention was focused on the long-range sensors. They were detecting other ships, lots of them. Every major power had responded to the signal, and they were all converging on the same point in space. Captain, Rodriguez said quietly, what do you think we're really flying into? Chen considered the question. The official story was that they were responding to a distress signal, but nothing about this felt right. The signal had come from an unknown source, using impossible technology. The coordinates led to empty space. And now they were flying toward it with humanity's most powerful weapons. I think we're about to find out if we're really alone in the universe, she said. The hours passed slowly. Chen tried to rest, but sleep wouldn't come. She kept thinking about the message, the impossible technology that had delivered it, and the countdown timer that was still ticking away on every screen. When she finally returned to the bridge, the tactical display showed a cluster of ships ahead of them. Dozens of vessels from every major power on Earth, all converging on a point in space that still appeared empty to their sensors. Captain, Park called from the sensor station, I'm detecting massive gravitational fluctuations ahead. Whatever's out there, it's affecting spacetime itself. Chen frowned. Any visual confirmation? Negative, ma'am. But the gravitational readings are off the charts. It's like there's a massive object there, but our cameras can't see it. Maybe it's cloaked, Rodriguez suggested. Before Chen could respond, the space in front of them began to shimmer. Like heat waves rising from hot pavement, the emptiness twisted and warped. And then, suddenly, it was there. The structure was massive beyond comprehension. It stretched for thousands of kilometers in every direction, its surface covered in geometric patterns that seemed to shift and change as they watched. It was clearly artificial, but built on a scale that dwarfed anything humanity had ever conceived. Jesus Christ, someone whispered. Chen stared at the structure, her mind struggling to process what she was seeing. It was beautiful in its alien geometry, but also terrifying. This was proof that humanity wasn't alone and that whatever had built this was far, far more advanced than they were. Captain, the communications officer called, we're being hailed. Multiple ships are requesting a conference. Chen nodded. Put them through. The main screen split into multiple windows, showing the bridges of ships from around the world. She recognized Admiral Volkov from the Russian fleet, Admiral Zhang from the Chinese Navy, and Admiral Thompson from the British vessels. There were others too, commanders from ships she'd only heard about in intelligence briefings. Ladies and gentlemen, Admiral Thompson's crisp British accent cut through the chatter, I believe we're all seeing the same thing. That structure appeared out of nowhere, and it's clearly not of human origin. The question is, Admiral Volkov said, his heavily accented English carrying an edge of suspicion, what do we do about it? Admiral Zhang's image flickered slightly. Our sensors are detecting massive energy signatures from within the structure. Whatever it is, it's active. Chen activated her microphone. This is Captain Chen of the USS Leviathan. Has anyone attempted to communicate with the structure? Negative, Thompson replied. We've been trying standard first contact protocols, but no response. Perhaps, Volkov said slowly, we should consider the possibility that this is a trap. The conference fell silent. It was the thought that had been nagging at Chen since the signal first arrived. The impossible technology, the coordinates leading to empty space, the countdown timer that was still ticking away, now showing less than 2 hours remaining. What kind of trap? Admiral Martinez from the Spanish fleet asked. Think about it, Volkov continued. A distress signal that bypasses all our security, coordinates that lead to a massive alien structure, and a countdown timer. We are humanity's most powerful warships, all gathered in one place, far from Earth's defenses. Chen felt her stomach drop. He was right. If someone wanted to neutralize humanity's naval power, this would be the perfect way to do it. But who would have that kind of technology? Admiral Park from the Korean fleet asked. Before anyone could answer, the structure began to glow. Lights appeared along its surface, forming patterns that pulsed in rhythm with the countdown timer. And then, impossibly, a voice spoke directly into their minds. "Welcome, children of Earth." The voice was ancient, vast, and utterly alien. It spoke without words, conveying meaning directly into their consciousness. You have answered the call. You have proven your species' willingness to respond to distress, to protect what you believe to be your own. This is commendable. Chen felt a chill run down her spine. The being, because it was clearly a being of some kind, was inside her head, examining her thoughts. Do not be afraid. I am not here to harm you. I am here to test you. Test us? Admiral Thompson spoke aloud, his voice carrying across the communication channels. Your species stands at a crossroads. You have developed the technology to travel between worlds, to build weapons that could destroy your own planet. But you have not yet learned to work together. You are divided by arbitrary borders, by meaningless differences in culture and ideology. The structure pulsed brighter, and Chen could feel the entity's attention focusing on each ship in turn. The galaxy is vast and dangerous. There are species that would see your world burned, your people enslaved. To survive, you must unite. You must become more than the sum of your parts. And if we refuse? Admiral Volkov asked, his voice hard. Then you will face what comes next alone. And you will fall. The countdown timer reached 0, and the space around them exploded into activity. Massive shapes began materializing out of the darkness, ships that dwarfed even the alien structure. They were sleek, predatory, and clearly hostile. The Devourers have found your world, the entity said, its mental voice now urgent. They consume entire civilizations, leaving nothing but dead worlds in their wake. They are already moving toward Earth. You have perhaps 6 hours before they arrive. Chen stared at the enemy fleet in horror. There had to be hundreds of ships, each one larger than anything humanity had ever built. And they were all turning toward Earth. How do we fight something like that? She whispered. Alone, you cannot. But together you might have a chance. The next few minutes were chaos. The alien entity, who called itself the Guardian, began transmitting tactical information directly into their minds. The Devourers were an ancient species that had been consuming civilizations for millennia. They were technologically superior to humanity in every way, but they had one weakness: they were used to fighting divided, terrified enemies. The Guardian is right, Admiral Thompson said over the communications channel. We need to work together if we're going to have any chance. Work together? Admiral Volkov laughed bitterly. Our nations have been enemies for generations. You expect us to suddenly become allies? We don't have a choice, Shin interjected. If we don't work together, we all die. Earth dies. The Guardian structure began to glow brighter, and new information flooded their minds. Weapon configurations, tactical formations, weak points in the Devourer ships, everything they needed to know to fight back. I have equipped your vessels with enhanced weapons and shields, the Guardian explained. But the technology is temporary. You have perhaps 12 hours before it fades. Use that time wisely. Chen looked at her tactical display and gasped. The Leviathan's weapon systems had been completely transformed. Where before they had conventional plasma cannons, now they had devices that could manipulate matter at the subatomic level. Their shields had been upgraded to deflect attacks that hadn't even been invented yet. My God, Admiral Zhang whispered. We're actually armed for this fight. The Devourers are moving toward Earth, the Guardian continued. They will arrive in 6 hours. You must intercept them before they reach your world. If they establish a foothold on Earth, all is lost. The enemy fleet was already moving, their massive ships accelerating toward Earth with frightening speed. Chen did some quick calculations and realized they would need to begin their intercept course immediately. All ships, she broadcast on the general frequency, this is Captain Chen. We need to form a unified command structure. I don't care about politics or national interests, we're all human, and we're all in this together. Agreed, Admiral Thompson said immediately. I'm putting my ships under joint command. One by one, the other commanders agreed. It was unprecedented, ships from rival nations working together, sharing tactical information, coordinating their movements. But the alternative was extinction. Chen found herself selected as the overall fleet commander, possibly because the Leviathan was the most advanced ship in the fleet. She accepted the responsibility with a heavy heart, knowing that the fate of humanity now rested on her shoulders. All ships, this is Fleet Commander Chen. We're going to intercept the Devourers before they reach Earth. Formation Alpha 7, maximum acceleration. We have 6 hours to save our world. The fleet turned as one, humanity's most powerful warships working in perfect coordination for the first time in history. Behind them, the Guardian structure began to fade, its task complete. Good luck, children of Earth, came the final message. The future of your species depends on what you do in the next few hours. The flight to intercept the Devourers was the longest 4 hours of Chen's life. The enemy fleet was massive. Sensors showed over 300 ships, each one a kilometer or more in length. They moved with purpose, clearly experienced in the art of planetary conquest. Fleet status report, Chen called. 47 ships ready for combat, ma'am, Rodriguez reported. All systems enhanced by Guardian technology. But we're still outnumbered more than 6 to 1. Chen nodded grimly. The odds were terrible, but they had advantages the enemy didn't expect. They were unified, they were fighting for their home, and they had been given weapons that could actually damage the Devourer ships. Enemy fleet will be in weapons range in 30 minutes, Admiral Thompson reported from the Excalibur. They're maintaining formation, looks like they're not taking us seriously. Good, Chen said. Let them underestimate us. It might be the only edge we get. The minutes ticked by slowly. Chen watched the tactical display, studying the enemy formation. The Devourers were arranged in a classic invasion pattern, heavy ships at the front, lighter vessels protecting the flanks, and what looked like troop transports in the rear. They were clearly planning to overwhelm Earth's defenses and begin immediate colonization. 20 minutes to weapons range, Park reported. Chen activated the fleet communication system. All ships, this is Fleet Commander Chen. In 20 minutes, we're going to engage an enemy that has destroyed countless civilizations. They expect us to run, to scatter, to fight each other instead of them. They're about to learn that they're wrong. She paused, looking at the faces on her bridge. These were good people, professionals who had dedicated their lives to protecting their countries. Now they were being asked to protect their entire species. We're not just fighting for our nations today. We're fighting for humanity itself. For our children, for our future, for the right to exist in this universe. The enemy thinks we're weak because we're divided. Let's show them what we can do when we work together. Agreements came back from every ship in the fleet. Chen felt a surge of pride as she realized that old enemies were now standing together, ready to fight as one. 10 minutes to weapons range, Park called. All ships, prepare for engagement. Remember, we hit them fast and hard. Use the Guardian's weapons to maximum effect. And whatever happens, we don't let them reach Earth. The final minutes passed in tense silence. Then, suddenly, they were in weapons range. Enemy ships are powering weapons, Admiral Zhang reported. They're targeting our lead ships. All ships, evasive maneuvers, Chen commanded. Return fire. The battle erupted in a blaze of energy. The Devourers fired first, their weapons lancing through space with deadly accuracy. But the Guardians' enhanced shields held, deflecting attacks that should have destroyed the human ships instantly. And then humanity fired back. The enhanced weapons were devastating. Chen watched in amazement as the Leviathan's main guns tore through a Devourer ship's shields like they were made of paper. Explosions bloomed across the enemy fleet as the human ships unleashed everything they had. Direct hit on enemy flagship. Admiral Volkov reported, his voice filled with fierce joy. Their shields are down. But the Devourers were far from defeated. They adapted quickly, adjusting their formation and focusing their fire on the human ships. The enhanced shields were powerful, but they weren't invincible. We've lost the courage, Admiral Thompson reported grimly. Enemy fire overwhelmed her shields. Chen felt a stab of grief, but she couldn't let it distract her. All ships, continue firing. We need to break their formation. The battle raged for what felt like hours but was probably only minutes. The human fleet darted between the massive Devourer ships, using their superior maneuverability to avoid the worst of the enemy fire. The Guardians' weapons were making a difference. Chen could see gaps appearing in the enemy formation as ship after ship was destroyed. But they were taking losses too. The Defiant exploded in a ball of fire. The Yamato drifted helplessly, her engines destroyed. The Warrior was listing badly, atmosphere venting from multiple hull breaches. We're losing too many ships, Admiral Zhang said over the communications channel. We need to do something dramatic. Chen studied the tactical display. The enemy fleet was still massive, but she could see a pattern in their formation. The larger ships were protecting something in the center, probably their command vessel. All ships, I need volunteers for a suicide run, she said quietly. We're going to punch through their formation and take out their command ship. Count me in, Admiral Thompson said immediately. The Vladivostok is with you, Admiral Volkov added. One by one, the other commanders volunteered. Chen felt a surge of emotion as she realized that these people, former enemies, were willing to die together for the sake of humanity. All right, she said. Form up on the Leviathan. We're going straight down their throat. The remaining human ships formed a tight formation, concentrating their fire on a single point in the enemy line. The Devourers responded, pouring fire into the advancing human fleet. Ships exploded, atmosphere vented into space, and brave crews died at their posts. But they kept coming. The Leviathan led the charge, her enhanced weapons carving a path through the enemy formation. Behind her, the other ships followed, their guns blazing. They were taking terrible casualties, but they were almost through. There. Rodriguez pointed at the tactical display. The command ship. It was massive, easily twice the size of the other Devourer vessels. Its hull was covered in weapon ports, and Chen could see that it was already turning to face them. All ships, concentrate fire on the command vessel, she ordered. Everything we have. The human fleet unleashed a coordinated barrage that lit up space. The command ship's shields flared and buckled under the assault. And then, suddenly, they failed. The Leviathan's main guns punched through the command ship's hull, tearing through vital systems. Secondary explosions rippled across the massive vessel, and Chen watched in amazement as it began to break apart. Command ship is down. Admiral Thompson cheered. We did it. But their celebration was short-lived. The destruction of the command ship had thrown the Devourer fleet into chaos, but they were still fighting. And the human fleet was down to less than 20 ships. Fleet Commander, Park called urgently, I'm detecting new contacts. Something big is coming through hyperspace. Chen's heart sank. If the Devourers had reinforcements, the battle was over. But then she saw the new contacts on the tactical display and gasped. They weren't Devourer ships. They were something else entirely. Massive vessels began materializing out of hyperspace ships that dwarfed even the Devourer fleet. Their hulls were covered in the same geometric patterns as the Guardian structure, and they moved with fluid grace despite their enormous size. Well done, children of Earth, the Guardian's voice echoed in their minds. You have proven your worth. You fought as one people, not as divided nations. This is why we have come. We? Chen asked. We are the protectors. We have watched over younger species for millennia, protecting them from threats like the Devourers. But we only aid those who have proven they can work together, who have moved beyond their primitive divisions. The Protector ships opened fire, their weapons making even the Guardians' enhanced technology look primitive. The remaining Devourer ships were swept away like leaves in a hurricane, their massive hulls vaporized by attacks that seemed to manipulate reality itself. In minutes, the battle was over. The Devourer fleet was gone, destroyed by the Protector's overwhelming technological superiority. The human fleet floated in space, battered but victorious. You have passed the test, the Guardian continued. Your species is ready to join the galactic community. We will share our knowledge with you, help you grow and develop. But remember, unity is strength. Division is death. Chen looked around the bridge at her crew, then at the faces of the other commanders on the communication screens. They had done it. They had saved Earth and proven that humanity could work together when it mattered most. Thank you, she said aloud. All of you. We couldn't have done this alone. No, Admiral Thompson said, his voice filled with emotion. We couldn't have. But together we can face anything. The return journey to Earth took 2 days. The Protectors had provided assistance, repairing damaged ships and treating wounded crew members. But more importantly, they had shared knowledge, star charts, scientific data, and the locations of other species who had also passed the test. Chen stood on the bridge of the Leviathan, watching Earth grow larger in the viewscreen. The blue marble that had seemed so small when they left now looked like home in a way she'd never experienced before. Captain, Rodriguez said, we're receiving a transmission from Earth Command. They want a full report. Chen smiled. Tell them we have a lot to discuss. And Rodriguez? Send a message to every ship in the fleet. We're not just returning as separate nations. We're returning as one people. The message went out, and Chen watched as the other ships in the fleet adjusted their formations. Where before they had flown in national groups, now they flew as one unified force. The sight filled her with hope for the future. Captain, Park called from the sensor station, long-range sensors are detecting construction activity near Earth. It looks like they're building something big. Chen frowned. What kind of construction? I'm not sure, ma'am. But it's massive. And it's using technology I've never seen before. The mystery was solved when they reached Earth orbit. Floating in space near the moon was a massive structure that was clearly still under construction. It was similar to the Guardian's original structure but smaller, more suited to human needs. A gift, the Guardian's voice echoed in their minds. A space station where the nations of Earth can work together, where you can coordinate your exploration of the galaxy. Consider it a graduation present. Chen stared at the structure in wonder. It was beautiful, functional, and clearly designed for humans. But more than that, it was a symbol of what they had accomplished, proof that humanity could work together when it mattered most. Fleet Commander, Admiral Thompson's voice came over the communication channel. I think we need to discuss something. What's that, Admiral? Command structure. We proved out there that we're stronger together than apart. Maybe it's time to make that official. Chen considered the suggestion. The idea of a unified Earth fleet was revolutionary, but after what they'd been through, it made sense. They had faced an extinction-level threat and survived because they had worked together. Why go back to the old ways of division and mistrust? I think you're right, she said. But that's a decision for our governments to make. Maybe, Admiral Volkov interjected. But they'll listen to us. We're the ones who saved Earth. We're the ones who proved that unity works. Over the next few hours, as the fleet took up orbit around Earth, Chen found herself in constant communication with world leaders. The story of the battle had already spread, and the images of former enemies working together had captured the world's imagination. The negotiations were complex, but the outcome was inevitable. Within a week, the United Nations had approved the creation of the Earth Defense Force, a unified military organization that would coordinate humanity's expansion into space. Chen was selected as the first admiral of the fleet, a position that would have been impossible just days before. But the battle had changed everything. National boundaries seemed less important when you were defending the entire planet. The ceremony was held aboard the new space station, which had been christened Unity Station by popular vote. Representatives from every nation on Earth were present, along with the crews of the ships that had fought in the battle. Today, Chen said, addressing the assembled crowd, we take the next step in human evolution. Not biological evolution, but social evolution. We're choosing to work together, to be stronger together than we ever were apart. She paused, looking out at the faces in the crowd. There were Americans and Russians, Chinese and British, representatives from every corner of the globe. People who had been enemies were now allies, united by their shared experience. The Guardian told us that unity is strength and division is death. We've proven that's true. Now we need to keep proving it, every day, as we explore the galaxy and take our place among the stars. The applause was thunderous. Chen smiled, feeling a sense of satisfaction she'd never experienced before. They had not only saved Earth but had fundamentally changed humanity's relationship with itself. 5 years later, Chen stood in the same spot on Unity Station, but the view had changed dramatically. The space around Earth was now filled with ships, not just military vessels, but civilian craft, research ships, and colony vessels. Humanity had embraced its role as a spacefaring species. Admiral, her aide approached, the horizon is reporting successful first contact with the Kepler system. The inhabitants are peaceful and interested in trade. Chen nodded. It was the 15th successful first contact mission in the past year. The protectors had been good to their word, sharing star charts and guidance that had helped humanity navigate the complex politics of the galaxy. Any word from the Deep Space Exploration Fleet? The Magellan reports discovering a new star system with at least 3 potentially habitable worlds. They're requesting a full survey team. Chen smiled. The universe was vast and full of wonders, and humanity was finally ready to explore it. The old divisions still existed, people still identified with their nations and cultures, but they had learned to work together when it mattered. Admiral, another aide approached, were receiving a priority transmission from the Guardian. Chen's attention snapped to focus. Communications from the Guardian were rare and always important. Put it through. The familiar mental voice filled her mind, warm and approving. Greetings, Admiral Chen. I wanted to inform you that humanity has been selected for full membership in the Galactic Council. Your species has proven itself worthy of joining the most advanced civilizations in the galaxy. Chen felt a surge of pride and excitement. Full membership in the Galactic Council meant access to technologies and knowledge that would accelerate human development by centuries. Thank you, Guardian. We're honored. You have earned it. Your species has grown tremendously since that first battle. You have maintained your unity while preserving your diversity. You have explored with wisdom and made contact with other species with respect. These are the qualities we value most. Chen looked out at the busy space lanes around Earth, at the ships carrying humans to distant worlds, at the space stations where different species worked together on common goals. It was a future she couldn't have imagined just 5 years ago. What's next? She asked. Next, you continue to grow. You explore new worlds, make new friends, and face new challenges. But you will not face them alone. You are part of something greater now, a community of species that spans the galaxy. The Guardian's presence faded, leaving Chen alone with her thoughts. She walked to the observation deck, where she could see Earth hanging in space like a blue jewel. It was still home, still the center of human civilization, but it was no longer the limit of human ambition. Admiral, her aide approached again, the Council of Nations is requesting a briefing on the Galactic Council membership. Chen nodded. Schedule it for tomorrow. And make sure all the fleet commanders are present. This concerns everyone. As she walked back to her office, Chen reflected on the journey that had brought them here. It had started with an impossible distress signal and a desperate battle against an ancient enemy. But it had led to something beautiful, a unified humanity taking its place among the stars. The old divisions were still there, but they were less important now. When you were working alongside aliens from distant worlds, the differences between humans seemed trivial. They were all children of Earth, all part of the same species, all united by their common origins and shared destiny. Chen settled into her chair and began reviewing the latest reports from the exploration fleets. There was so much to do, so many worlds to explore, so many species to meet. The galaxy was vast and full of opportunities for those brave enough to seize them. But for the first time in human history, they wouldn't be facing those opportunities alone. They would be facing them together, as one species, one people, one unified force in the galaxy. The SOS that had summoned humanity's most powerful warships had been more than a distress call. It had been an invitation to grow, to evolve, to become something greater than they had ever been before. And humanity had answered that call magnificently. 10 years after the first contact with the Guardian, Admiral Chen stood once again on the observation deck of Unity Station. But this time, she wasn't alone. Beside her stood her successor, Admiral Martinez, who would take over fleet command when Chen retired next year. "It's beautiful, isn't it?" Martinez said, gesturing at the view outside. Chen nodded. The space around Earth was now a bustling hub of galactic commerce. Ships from dozens of species docked at the massive trade stations that orbited the planet. Human children grew up learning alien languages alongside their native tongues. The future was brighter than anyone had dared to dream. "Do you ever think about that first day?" Martinez asked. "When we received the signal?" Chen smiled. "Every day. It changed everything." "Do you think we would have made it without the Guardian's intervention?" Chen considered the question. "I don't know. We might have destroyed ourselves eventually. Or we might have found another way to work together. But I'm glad we didn't have to find out." They stood in comfortable silence, watching the ships come and go. Then Martinez spoke again. "Admiral, there's something you should know. We've been receiving reports from our deep space exploration fleets. They're finding worlds that have been consumed. Lifeless planets that show signs of having once supported civilization." Chen felt a chill. "The Devourers?" "We think so. The Protectors may have stopped the fleet that was heading for Earth, but there might be others out there. Other fleets, other threats." Chen nodded slowly. She had always known that the galaxy was a dangerous place, full of species that might not share humanity's values. But they were no longer the divided, vulnerable species they had been 10 years ago. "We'll face whatever comes," she said confidently. "Together." Martinez smiled. "Yes, ma'am. Together." As they watched, a new ship appeared in the traffic lanes, a massive vessel that dwarfed even the largest human ships. It was clearly alien, its hull covered in crystalline formations that sparkled in the sunlight. "New species?" Chen asked. "The Crystalline Collective," Martinez replied. "They're requesting permission to establish a permanent embassy on Unity Station. Apparently, they've heard about humanity's reputation for cooperation and want to discuss a formal alliance." Chen felt a surge of pride. Humanity's reputation for cooperation, who would have thought that possible just a decade ago? "Grant the request," she said. "And make sure they get a proper welcome. We have a lot to learn from each other." As the alien ship docked at Unity Station, Chen reflected on the journey that had brought them to this point. It had started with an impossible distress signal and a desperate battle against an ancient enemy. But it had led to something beautiful, a unified humanity taking its place among the stars, respected and valued for its ability to work together. The SOS that had summoned humanity's most powerful warships had been more than a distress call. It had been a test, a challenge, and ultimately an invitation to join something greater than themselves. And humanity had answered that call magnificently. Now, as she prepared to step down from her position, Chen knew that the future was in good hands. The next generation of leaders understood what she had learned in those desperate hours of battle, that unity was strength, that cooperation was survival, and that together, humanity could face any challenge the galaxy might throw at them. The stars were calling, and humanity was ready to answer. The final chapter of Chen's story came 20 years after that first impossible distress signal. She was now retired, living in a comfortable apartment on Unity Station, but she still kept up with galactic affairs. Humanity had become one of the most respected species in the galaxy, known for their ability to bring together different civilizations and find common ground.